Hey guys, welcome back to Contest Prep University. I'm Joe Klemczewski with Adam Atkinson. We are in episode 4 of our interpretation of the scientific method. And the fourth step, Adam, is to analyze those results. So assuming, and by experimenting with your own contest prep, you can't necessarily call that research, but it is anecdotal. It's you figuring out some things and refining some experimental variables for yourself. And so we really do need to analyze these results. And that's why I said having repeated tests is very important. I would say the very first time I really experimented with some of the things I was talking about with my own body, I would say I wasn't necessarily going far enough with hydration or sodium, didn't understand all of those variables, but I kept refining my approach and looking a little bit better. But then one day I went too far. I decided in my undulating loading model, Adam, that I would just take an entire weekend before the show and load up on a massive amount of carbs. And then I would have time, after reaching my glycogen ceiling threshold to kind of taper off and go into the show, looking my best. The Thursday before the show, I arrived in New York City. I was still 16 pounds up. And that's from a morning weight to an afternoon weight, so, throw in an extra 5 or so on that. But let's say 10 pounds of glycogen in water, a gallon of water weighs about 8.5 pounds. So that's not an insane amount, but clearly, as you can imagine, I was pretty spilled over and soft looking and so forth. And so because I was kind of rolling the dice and experimenting all the way, into a show, I missed my chance of looking my best, but at least that gave me one big data point to analyze. And I could say, okay, there is a ceiling to this. And I know we were talking about burgers and fries, and this is more to do with just general carbohydrate, but you have to be able to analyze results in a way that gives you real empirical data as much as possible. So do you have anything that you look for? Because you're analyzing client results every day. I mean, you're sitting there interpreting what they're doing, how they're doing it, how it's affecting their physique, what they need for the next week or month or 2 months leading up to a show. So what is your process of just analysis?
Yeah, and especially in terms of peaking, since we're talking about that, is lots of photos 3 times a day, morning, midday, night. Comparing those results. Sometimes we even do this, I'll increase my clients' check-ins, maybe even before their peak week, to make sure I'm seeing some different trends. Let's see how you look after your refeed day. These are things that we'll engage in more once a client is 100% ready. And that is definitely key. And you can see those fine changes. And like you said, you can take things too far where it's just too many calories and you're just not going to come down off of that spillover. So really observing. And I wouldn't say I do a test peak per se, but I will push things up to a degree where I think that we might be going for peak week, just so I can see how it looks on that person. We can look at potential stage times and timing of those meals to make sure that the person looks their best.
And I agree. And that's the important part about analysis, is that you're looking to have an exact reason for the decisions you're making. If you can say, okay, I now know that hydration needs to be there to look your best on stage, or sodium or other minerals, all the things, all the variables we talked about with contest prep, then you can start creating, and it is a story, it's still a story, because I don't know if we could empirically prove everything, but if you're basing it on the best research, and I love to go to the most current physiology textbooks where a board of editors have gone through literally thousands of bits of research to say, here is the entire literature review assessment to even be included in this chapter. It's not just a little one-off study saying, oh, look at that, they found this, therefore I'm going to use that information. And so I think every time we create a data point of analysis for a client, it really helps in the long term of their approach. I mean, you're learning something about that client that has some application to other clients, but in different contexts, because again, biology is very dynamic. Our genetics are all very different.
Absolutely. I would ask people to look at this as, two different two different people that look at cars, and you have mechanic number one that says, oh, you put the key in the ignition, you turn it, and it just works, but I don't know why. Or a mechanic that says, okay, well, you had the pistons in the engine that move up and down, and that, you know, takes gasoline to use. It's just, you know, I would rather go with mechanic number two.
There you go. There you go. All right, guys. So we're gonna wrap this up. In the next episode, we're gonna talk about what to do with all this. You've created an observation. You've tested a hypothesis. You've gathered results. What are we gonna do with it now? So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time in Contest Prep University.